As we worked our way through our sketchbooks, we have talked about the elements of art. We have talked about line, color, space, shape, and texture. Today we're going to add a little bit more. We're going to talk about form and value. Today we are going to draw a cityscape, and that is basically a drawing of buildings in a city. We could draw a cityscape that looks like this, that is using just basic rectangle shapes to make a flat front of the building. Or we could draw it a little bit differently and add form to our buildings. You can see here we only are seeing one side of the building. Here we're seeing two, like you would a little bit more in real life. And then we're also going to be using, as we add color, we're using value to help define the sides of our buildings. So you can draw your cityscape horizontally, or you could choose to draw your cityscape vertically like this, and you could even put it up on a hill and use, like in our last lesson, you could use some of your line landscape to build a spot for your city to rest. So today you're going to need your sketchbook, a pencil, a ruler, or an envelope or a piece of paper that's a little bit thicker to help you draw your straight lines. And you will need something to color with, so colored pencils or crayons. Today when you see this paw print, pause the video to draw the step you just watched. You can draw with your pencil, and that would probably be your best choice, but since it's a little hard to show up on camera, I'm going to draw today with a pen that will show up, and I am going to use just this envelope as a straight edge to help me draw my straight lines. The first thing I am going to do is I am going to use just straight edge of my envelope to draw the center of my first building. So I'm just going to pick a spot and I'm going to draw my line down. So this is now going to turn into the corner of our building. And to kind of get that shape, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this line into an arrow. So I'm going to draw, starting at this line here, I'm just going to draw a line coming out this way, and then I'm going to draw another line coming out this way, and you can see I've got a bit of an arrow here. Now to turn that into the building, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw going down the sides of our building. So now I've got one side, and here I'm just going to draw the next thing. So now we've got the start of our first building. And we will continue doing this, just drawing our arrows to make our buildings. And I find it easier to use something to help me draw a straight line, whether it's, like I said, an envelope, you can use a ruler, another piece of paper, just something to kind of rest your pencil against to help you draw those straight lines. And we're going to keep going, adding buildings to our cityscape. Now, the other thing we can do to add a little bit more dimension is we could have some behind our other buildings. So here I'm going to draw this one somewhat close. And then when I draw the roof line, I am going to have it go partway over this building and then finish drawing my arrow here. But as I draw my sides of this one, it's not behind anything else, so I'm going to go straight down. But this one, see, it's tucked behind this building, so I want to make sure that I only draw from the roof line down to that building. So we just draw that short little line. So like over here, we can draw another one. So here's our corner of our building. And then here, we're going to make sure we just draw to the edge of the other building. And then here I'll draw the other side of our building. Edge of our roof, just down to the top of our next building. Here, what we can do is now we can start to add some details. And to do that, one of the simplest ways is to just maybe draw some lines across to look like windows, but we want to keep in mind that our building is a bit at an angle. So we want to keep those lines that we are drawing parallel to that top roof line. So what the best way to I find it easiest to do is I put my flat edge up against that roof line, and then I just slide it down and I draw my next line, slide it down, draw my next line, slide it down, and continue to go, keeping that straight edge parallel to the top, which means these two lines are going straight. They're never going to cross. They're not going like this where they kind of might not match that angle. We want to try to keep it as parallel as we can. And just keep going, adding your windows as you go. Now you could, instead of drawing just straight line windows, you could just draw a couple of little lines like that. And again, draw them parallel. And then you can connect those lines to be more square windows and keep going down like that. Now remember, as we're drawing our windows, when we come to a building that is maybe in front of it, we need to make sure that we stop at the edge of the building. We don't want to draw through another building. That overlapping helps create the look of there being space between the buildings. So just pick how you want your windows to look, and you can pick different windows for each building because you're the artist, you get to decide. What we're going to use next, as we add color, we are going to add value. You can see that one side of the building, so like say the front side of the building, has the sun hitting on it, so it's going to be a lighter color. This side of the building that's maybe going down the street is going to be a little bit more in the shade, so it's going to be a darker color, a darker value. So as we do that, I'm going to use crayons today. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to draw this building here, and I'm going to color it brown. And I'm going to color this side here to be my darker value. So to do that, I'm going to push a little bit harder, and I'm going to make sure I get a dark color. And I'm going to keep coloring it in, putting a little bit more pressure on it. Not too much that we will break our crayon, and we might need to go over it another time. So maybe color over it twice to get that darker color. I find it a little bit easier to do one small section at a time. Now when we have our darker value colored in, now what we need to do is color on our other side of the building, and we're going to be using a lighter value to make it look like, say, the sun is hitting there. And to do that, all we're going to do is color very, very lightly. So we're just barely kind of touching the paper with our crayon. And then just keep coloring all of your other buildings, having one side, and make sure that you keep it consistent. So if you've picked this side of your buildings to be your lighter value, make sure that all of that part of your building is your lighter value, and then the other one is your darker. So keep it consistent. So again, my darker value is going to be over here, making sure I get lots of color down, and then my lighter value on the other side. So here's our cityscape that we used form and value to give some dimension to our artwork. Now remember, you can either do it horizontally or vertically, and you can even add some of the other lessons that we have used before by like adding a hill for your city to rest on. It's all up to you, the artist.